To me, really kind of boils down to basically what is the role of the auditor, what is really our objective, and whether or not that objective was answered. And we have one primary objective and a whole bunch of secondary objectives. The primary objective is quite simply our opinion as to whether or not the financial statements as presented are represented fairly. I don't know that you can say a lot plainer than that. That doesn't mean that we agree or disagree with basically, where a government's emphasis is on how they spend their money, where they spend their money. That basically says they've recorded it right. It's a forensic process, and we have issued for the last, I don't remember how, it's been a long time since we've had anything other than an unqualified opinion, with the exception of that we do not present with this financial statement, or the accounting consultants don't present a management discussion and analysis. That's really not a critical part of the financial statement, but on basically our opinion on what is presented in the financial statement is that they are absolutely presented fairly and in accordance with the standards. That is becoming more and more of a challenge all the time, because in 2003 we were at GASB 34. So basically from the beginning of time to 2003 we're at GASB 34. Today, 2011, starting next year, we're going to be implementing GASB 57. And so a lot of the idea about why auditor fees are going out, really getting outrageous, and why that we have to have an accounting consultant in addition to city staff, in addition to an auditor. Those are, although I would argue that all of those things basically create an environment that the financial systems are better today than they were back then, they cost a whole lot more, and it doesn't matter if we like it or not. That's what it is. If you don't use an accounting consultant, you have an adverse opinion. That's simple as that. If the auditor drafts any of the financial statement, they are automatically disqualified from giving an opinion. And so why do the audit if you basically have to disclaim the opinion, from the start? So so that's where a lot of, I think, the expectations gap to this day still come in, is people think that as we do audit that we're basically looking at maybe a lot more specific things, or our objectives are more specific type of things. And we look at a lot of detailed stuff. We've got, we went paperless this year, which we've kind of been for about 10 years. But this year we basically, our work papers are totally in electronic format. And one of the things that we figured out with that is it allowed our work papers to become monstrous. It would take up 10 4-inch volumes if we printed out everything. So we've got a lot of detail. And so when people wonder how much we did, or how likely are to find something that basically, it's a selection process. We're not looking at 100% of transactions, but I feel pretty comfortable saying that we've looked at as many transactions as anybody outside that government will ever, and more than what most people ever want to look at. And if there's something, particularly procedurals of things of not being recorded right, or even more importantly, where that somebody intentionally does something to kind of mislead, with the intent of misleading, chances are pretty good that we're going to find that, in every instance. But the goal, the primary objective is to come up with that opinion, not to basically find fraud, not to determine what is abuse, certainly not to basically make independent judgments about basically, management functions. At the same time, management functions and reporting functions and the audit process all really go hand in hand. The better each one of those are, the better basically the chance that audit opinion is going to be a good one. The thing that I think probably says that the most about where we're at, where we've come, is that if we had the same system in place today we had in 2003, no way, no, I'm not brave enough to do the audit if we had the 2003 system and 2011 problems. There is absolutely no way that we could have anywhere close to an unqualified opinion. Our conditions and findings would be thicker than the audit report itself. You know, so we've come a long ways in those 8 years, and the system continues to be better every single year. And so and I think that there's really not any one thing that we can put our finger on. You know, that's a combination, you know, from Alan on down. One of the things I make a comment a lot of time, we've got the right good people in the right spots, and that is particularly true when we look at things, not really the upper management, the Allens and the Dougs, as much as it goes all the way down to Natasha doing payables, Anita, you know, on the accounting side, kind of overview. Anita's grant records were as good as I've ever seen grant records in terms of being in order. And I've looked at a lot of grants, 25 years. I've looked at some real good systems and some real bad ones, and quite honestly, her grant records blew me away. It was the easiest thing that I could have done, and so I think that it's important to basically recognize, well, I think that the tone has been set right at the top. We've also got a very conscientious staff